So happy afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and the wonderful future leaders of the country. So today we are here for another inspiring session with an inspiring speaker, a part of the Business Standard Learning Initiative, the CEO Talk. Mr. Vijay Kapoor is a first-gen entrepreneur who has set himself a mark in the entrepreneurial sector. He has not only established a brand, he himself is a brand. That's what my personal interaction with him over the last few years has helped me to understand more about him. Mr. Vijay also has a vision, or rather a dream, to create 1,000 new gen entrepreneurs, and already in this path of a successful journey, he has successfully started his journey and he has started creating many new gen entrepreneurs across Tamil Nadu and over South India, and very soon he will be embarking his journey pan India. And here we have the wonderful Dean of Chitkara University, the School of Management, Dr. Sandeep Sharma, who will give a brief about the university and take on and introduce also the guest speaker. And I also have my colleague, the energetic Shirish Mutkal, who will have a brief about the Dean. Because many of you know him as a dean, but behind him there is a success story which Shirish will tell. And to know more about Mr. Vijay, you please read this book. Behind every successful man there is a woman, and definitely Mr. Vijay is blessed with a wonderful wife who is also an author, Rakhi Kapoor. She has written this book, The Horse Shoeman, and now they have come out with the second volume of this book also. So more Mr. Vijay will explain, and more you will know about him during this lecture. So over to Shrish.
Thanks, Jay, for this opportunity. Let me welcome Sandeep sir. He is a dean of Chitkara University that everybody knows. Require no introduction, but for me, he is a friend, philosopher and guide for the last 9 years. He is a friend first, academician later for me, and others maybe he is the dean first. So for me, it's a altogether different relationship. A very astute educationist, doing a great job in education, having the PhD. Done more than 43 research papers on different subjects, the visiting faculty of at least 3 universities and abroad. So the list is on and on. So, but I am making it small so that you can have it from Sandeep sir, because he is always so modest whenever I try to put his thing into public. So over to Sandeep sir. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, Shrishi and Mr. Jairam, Business Standard Learning Team. It's my great pleasure and privilege welcoming Mr. Vijay Kapoor. Jai sir spoke about Vijay ji. He's a first generation entrepreneur, but I found something interesting for the audience to introduce Mr. Kapoor. I personally liked it very much in the profile of Mr. Kapoor when he where he mentioned that he has a dream of creating 1,000 successful first generation entrepreneurs by 31st March 2025. Vijay sir, my compliments to you because this is such a noble aim you have. And we as a country, we need such kind of people who can actually set such kind of targets and can become a catalyst for a social change. What is even more interesting while reading profile for Mr. Vijay is that he says that the people who are associated with you should be successful. This is really wonderful, and his passion lies in making a success chain. That means he wants all his customers, vendors, suppliers, service providers, franchisee partners, team members, everybody successful. This is this is a sign of a great leader. So they create people, they make people successful, those who are associated with them. So this is another part of introduction which I personally like. So I thought that I'll begin with it, because this is something very, very interesting. Presently, Mr. Vijay, as everybody knows, that he is managing director and founder of men's fashion brand Derby Menswear, and he was born in Varanasi. Just for the information of all the participants of the audience, in year 1971, and at the age of 23. He ventured into entrepreneurship, though he has spent most of his time in Chennai, and completed his education in St. Bede's, and then he graduated from Loyola College. Mr. Vijay has also completed his education from Stanford University through a prestigious Seed Transformation program. And as he mentions that he was a shy boy as a child in the early years of his life, but then he explored his potential. Mr. Vijay, explore your potential is a punchline at Chitkara University, and we strongly believe that everybody has some potential to explore, and I think this is what you did exactly, and this is how you have reached to the pinnacle of success. Mr. Vijay has many laurels. To his credit, he is figured in Power Brands India most impactful brand. He is felicitated by Asia Africa GCC top 100 retail minds in India. He got Brand Leadership Award in Chennai, Best Retailer Award, Franchisee India, and top 100 Franchisee Opportunities Award. There is a list of awards and accolades for Mr. Kapoor, and it's our privilege actually today talking to him and taking words of wisdom, because my students and the faculty from Chitkara University, they are the audience, and they are very happy to be part of it. There's another important thing which I strongly feel that the audience must know, that his lifestyle and work ethic has a logic, and the logic says that money is an amazing byproduct, but a poor point of focus. I will request Vijay sir to give a small talk on this particular logic. I understood it though, but I would like to hear from Vijay sir's perspective, because I'm sure that he will give a different perspective to this this logic of this logic. Another important thing that he lives every moment with intensity and enthusiasm, and I have seen a couple of his videos, and the way he expresses himself and the way he has shared his story of business and his life experiences, it has been wonderful. I'm sure the audience is going to enjoy his session. He has traveled the world, and he has tracked the Himalayas. Vijayji, you must be missing all Himalayas in COVID-19. I'm sure at the moment the movements are not there, and he has dived in the most exotic coral reefs of the world. He is fond of spending a week in silence and meditation every year, and a wonderful person, a brand in our country, a businessman, innovator, motivational speaker. There is a lot more to say, but I would not like to stay between our worthy speaker and the audience today, and would like to invite Mr. Vijay Kapoor to take charge of the session, and I'm sure that the audience will enjoy. Mr. Vijay, welcome once again, and I invite you to take charge of the session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for such a grand introduction. Thank you so much. So let me welcome everybody by doing namaste to everybody. I know we all speak about namaste. We speak about the Indian tradition about namaste. But also our forefathers long back understood that we're able to relate with one another just on the basis of what we do, the religion we belong to, or the socio-economic condition we come from, or the sex we have, or the geographical differences that we come from. Then we will not be able to live in a world that is filled with harmony, but we are only relating to one another based on the differences that we have. So they came up with this whole concept called as namaste, which actually meant, yes, we may have differences. Yes, we may not belong to the same sex. Yes, we may not belong to the same religion. Yes, we may not be from the same nationality. Yes, we may not have the same socio-economic balance, but deep within we are one and the same. Deep within we are created by the same creator. Understanding that, they came up with a tradition saying, you in spirit and me in spirit are one and the same. And I bow down to the spiritual oneness between us. And that's how the whole tradition of Namaste came in. So I thought I will just explain this to you. And probably in the context of what we are going right now, in terms of coronavirus that we are going and why we are using Namaste. So Namaste probably also means your bacteria and virus with you and my bacteria and virus with me. So together, let's do social distancing and express Namaste to one another. So probably this is another version of the new Namaste that's come over all over the world. I always start my talk by telling, loving you so much. I mean it. I mean it when I tell you, I love you. You may wonder, what is this entrepreneur? What is this businessman sitting out here and speaking about love? What is love got to do anything with entrepreneurship or business? But I strongly believe love is the only thing that makes this world go round. We live in a world of differences. And as long as we are only looking and thinking about me, mine, myself, as long as I'm only looking at what is my bank balance, what do I do for my family, my immediate family, then I think we're going to live a very, very shallow or sub-animal life. But only when you're able to love one another is when we can live a more meaningful life. If I know you and if I love you, it's called a relationship. But if I'm able to love you even without knowing who you are, and that is called faith. And that is the faith on which I'm starting my whole talk saying, love you. For example, my right hand is not going to come and tell me that this morning I gave you a bath. Or my left hand is not going to tell me that this is the hand you used to clean your backside. My hand is not going to say, because they are the natural extensions of my body. Similarly, we as human beings are natural extensions of the entire ecosystem that we call the world. And we need to understand we are a part of this whole ecosystem. I belong to the entrepreneurship community. I belong to a group of entrepreneurs and businessmen who have problems in the world. And how do we find a solution to those problems in the world? How can we find a solution? What are the problems that is happening probably in the environment, probably fellow human being? What are the issues and problems they're finding? And what is a solution we can provide as entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs are solution providers for the world. Let's define an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is one who takes resources from areas of lower productivities and deploys them in areas of higher productivity. That's the job of an entrepreneur. Find a problem and find a solution to the problem. And finding the solution to the problem is where we develop the entire ecosystem, where we create a business enterprise that can help solve the problem. And also in the bargain of solving the problem for others in the world, you also get rewarded. So that is what entrepreneurship is all about. But having said that, there is something called as a law of unintended consequences. I told you, loving you so much, because we live in a world where the environment needs us, where trees need us, where plants need us, where animals need us, and where fellow human beings need us. We live in a world where we are interdependent and we need each another for the ecological balance for us to live a value-based and a holistic life. We need that balance. But what is happening today? The law of unintended consequences has already stepped in, and we don't realize today what we are creating, the impact of what we have created unintendedly. All the economic activity that has happened is creating a climate change in the world. Probably what we are experiencing today, the coronavirus, is probably a one tight slap that nature has hit on our face for the unintended consequences, for the overconsumptions that we have. We have created ecological imbalance that's created. A man is a man, a human being is a human being. Only when you're able to grow and correct yourself in the comfort of your life, you should be willing to change and become what you can become within the comfort of life. If not, life will change you with one tight psychological slap. And sometimes when that slap happens, the price that we pay is what we're experiencing today as something called as coronavirus, COVID-19. I'm asking myself this question. Me as an entrepreneur, how do I take responsibility for this? Can I find a solution for this? Can I be a part of the ecosystem and probably do something about what we're experiencing? Not just about COVID-19. We cannot do anything about it. But can we change the further harmful effects that can take place in business? Can we actually be a solution provider rather than, always complaining about there's a problem? Can we actually be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem? Can we do something about it? So that's when I started the whole talk saying, loving you so much. I know we all love stories. So let me start today's talk with a little story. It seems long back, these blacks were treated as slaves by the white. Richard was a 10-year-old Negro boy, and Richard's parents were slaves. All his growing life, Richard had seen what the whites did, the blacks were not allowed to do. So Richard grew up with this belief, what the whites can, the blacks cannot. One day, Richard was taking a walk along the park when he noticed a gas balloon vendor release a cluster of balloons into the air. The balloons were red in color, blue in color, and white in color. Looking at the red, blue, and white color balloon go up, Richard ran up to the gas balloon vendor and told him, Uncle, you released a cluster of balloons into the air. They were red, blue, and white. They all went up, Uncle. If you release a black color balloon, will that balloon go up? This was only understandable coming from Richard, because what had Richard seen? All his life, Richard had seen what the whites did, the blacks cannot. So Richard grew up with this belief, what the whites can, the blacks cannot. Understanding this, the gas balloon vendor gently put his arms around Richard's shoulder and told him, it's not the outside of the balloon that takes to the top, but it is the inside of the balloon that takes to the top. And I want you to know, my son, all balloons are made of the same inside stuff. It does not matter if the balloon is round in shape, it's oval in shape, it's big, it is small, that does not matter. What really takes the balloon to the top is what is inside. That day, Richard realized the black and the white are made of the same inside stuff. The God who created the white, the same God who created the black. And that was a turning point in Richard's life. Though born a slave, Richard decided he need not live like a slave all his life. His belief system changed. And when the belief system changed, everything about his life changed. I'm asking you, what is your belief system? What do you believe? What do you look? When you look into the mirror, what do you see? Are you all the time looking in the mirror and saying, hey, I think my thighs have become very fat. Hey, I think my stomach has come out. Hey, I'm losing all my hair. Hey, I think I'm wearing glasses. I'm not looking all that good. Hey, I've got a very, flat nose. I don't have sharp nose. What are you going to do with sharp nose? Are you going to get vegetables with it? The outer beauty will die gradually. You may be beautiful today, but your outer beauty will die. What is the use of you all the time feeling small about yourself and not loving yourself? It does not matter actually whether others like you or not. What really matters is, do you like yourself? When you start liking yourself, others will start liking you. It does not matter whether others love you or not. If you love yourself, others will start loving you. Swami Vivekananda said, he's not an atheist who doesn't believe in God, but he's an atheist who doesn't believe in himself. What Swami Vivekananda wanted you to understand is you need to have self-belief. Because what's the use in believing in the Creator if you don't believe in his creation, that is yourself? You got to believe in yourself, and your self-belief will be the first step towards achieving anything that you want to achieve in life. So many beautiful things were told about me just now. All these things, Vijay Kapoor achieved so many awards, this, that. But I want to tell you, I'm no expert. I'm not I'm not a professional. I'm not a consultant, and I don't know. I'm not an expert on COVID. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know any of that, because what we're experiencing is right now is something what the world has not experienced over the last 100 years. It's even greater than the Great Depression. It's greater than the World War I, World War II. It's even greater than the Great Famine that India experienced in the 1960s. It is even greater than the economic meltdown that happened of the banks during 2008, or probably the tsunami that we experienced, or probably the demonetization. What we're experiencing right now is something much greater than all this, and we still don't know the depth of the problem. more than the deaths that are going to take place. The economic impact about what is happening is something that nobody knows. Anybody out there who comes and tells you otherwise is only making an educated guess. Nobody knows, because the world that we slept to and the world that we have awakened to are two different worlds. It's not going to be the same. It's going to be totally different. Things are going to change. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm only a practitioner. There's a huge difference between an expert and a practitioner. I'm a practitioner. I have only learned from the teachers, from my gurus, and what I've learned and what I've applied in my life, and what I've learned out of the application is what I'm going to share with you. I do not claim anything that I don't know. Now, what Richard underwent, I underwent the same transformation when my guru, my teacher, Mahatria, the founder of Infinitheism, one day when he looked into my eyes and told me, Vijay, it's not the outside of the balloon that takes you to the top, but it is the inside of the balloon that takes you to the top. And I want you to know, my dear Vijay, that all balloons are made of the same inside stuff. From then onwards, the way I've looked at myself has never been the same. And the way the world has looked at me has never been the same. That has been the turning point in my life. And I want today's session to be your turning point.
Mr. Vijay, we cannot hear you.
I'm asking you, make you superstar, Rajnikant. What do you think? I want to answer. Do you become Sachin Tendulkar or Virat Kohli, the great batsman and the captain on the Indian team, and then develop great batting and abilities? Or when you're still a player and practitioner of the game cricket, you develop certain great qualities that makes you the superstar of a batsman and the captain of the Indian cricket team? I'm asking you that. Simple people, when they were simple, developed certain great qualities that made them great. You, as you are, should develop certain great qualities that will take you to greatness. You cannot become great and develop some great qualities. You, as you are, should develop certain great qualities that's going to take you to greatness. And for that, we need to grow. We need to transform. We need to become what we can become. And for that, we should be willing to put our life through uncomfortable transition to become and grow into the type of human being, the type of person that we become. I do not believe there is lack of potential. If anybody tells me there's a lack of potential, I will not agree with you. There's either a sleeping potential or there is an awakened potential. There's nothing called as lack of potential. So let us understand, how are you going to manifest your potential? It seems at the bottom of the pond, there was a colony of insects. Every now and then, in this colony of insects, they noticed one from the colony of insects holding on to the stem of the lily plant, climbing. He went up and disappeared from the top of the water. So all the remaining insects at the bottom of the pond used to regularly speak with themselves, wondering why would anybody leave the comfort of this life, comfort of all their friends, all the happiness and joy they share, and go searching for a new life, climbing up the lily stalk. So they all decided the next time one of them climbs up and goes, that person will come back and tell all the remaining insects out there what happens to them when they climb up and go up the lily stalk. They took a solemn pledge. Providence it was. The very insect that told this found itself climbing up the lily stalk the next day. And climbing, up he went. He went through the water and fell onto the leaf of the lily pad. He went to sleep when he climbed up. He slept for a few days. When he finally awoke after a few days, he was surprised to see the change that had come over his entire body. His body had transformed from an insect to a dragonfly. He started to flap his wings, and as he flapped his four golden wings and his long tails, he took off from the lily pad and he started going up and down, flying up and down, really feeling on top of the world. As he flew and then came and rested back onto the lily pad, it seems the dragonfly had four profound realizations. The first realization that the dragonfly had, if he had not aspired to be much more than an insect, he could never have become a dragonfly in his life. That is where great people stood out from the rest of the people. They never asked themselves what is easy for me. They always asked themselves what is the right thing to do. What do I need to do? They were not willing to be in the comfort of the life. They were always wanting to challenge themselves. They always had aspiration far greater than what they are today. I'm asking you, what are your aspirations? Do you want to be one in the crowd, or do you want to be one above the crowd? Do you have aspirations? That is where all great people stood out. That is the first profound realization that the dragonfly had. If he had not given the comfort of being an insect, he could never have become a dragonfly. The second realization that the dragonfly had, when he took off and wanted to go into the water, to go and tell the others what happened to him. As he touched the water, he realized he couldn't get into the water. Second, now that he's back, even if he wants to, he can no more go back from where he has come. So that was the second profound realization he has. Once you become what you've become, you can no more go back to becoming an insect. Once you become Mahatma Gandhi, you can no more go back to becoming Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Once you become the superstar Rajnikant, you can no more go back to become the bus conductor Rajnikant. True transformation is true transformation. When your past looks like somebody else's past, you can never go back. I am getting a feedback that the voice is not clear. It's clear now. Can I request the panelists to just can you just can I see you on the video, please, the panelist?
Hello.
Yeah, this is the Jairam. I requested in the beginning itself. So
Yeah.
See you.
Yeah.
I will come to know if the video is going on and off or it's stalling, so I have a visual thing.
But in fact, what we were trying was, when your audio is getting disturbed, we were switching off the video so that the bandwidth is perfect. Now it's okay. Now we can hear you. Hello. 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 Hello.
Oh, I understand. Yes. The bandwidth is very low.
Yeah.
It's clear now?
Yeah.
Is the audio clear?
Yes. Now it's clear. Yes. Yeah.
One sec. Let me just see if I can shift to another thing. 1 second. Connection. Just a minute.
Yeah.
I've shifted to another connection. Is it better now?
Yeah. It's better. It's better.
I was speaking about the second transformation or the second realization that the dragonfly had. Now that it's become a dragonfly, even if it wants, it can no more go back to where it came from. Even if it went back from where it came from, the other dragonfly will no more be able to recognize the dragonfly in its new form, because they're all insects. They cannot relate to a dragonfly. They will always wonder, what is this? Why is he changed? Why is he not one of us? Supposing one of you, I know you are youngsters, but I know we also develop certain habits when we are young. If one of you are, probably has a habit of smoking, and you're with a gang who probably shares a cigarette and loves to smoke, and one of you says tomorrow, hey, I think I need to transform. I need to go up on the habit. And you say, I'm dropping cigarette and I'm not going to smoke. And after 30 days of not smoking, you go back to the same gang of friends and tell them, hey, I've transformed now. I've given up on my smoking. What do you think your gang of friends is going to say? If they're really your friends, they will clap, welcome you, and say, hey, wow, beautiful. We are so proud of you. Even we want to give up this habit. We want to kick the habit of smoking, but we're not able to do it. But I'm sure most of them will not be able to relate to you. In fact, they will say, dosti ke liye ek drug. They will ask you to have one puff, or probably one of them will have a puff and blow rings on top of your face. They will not want one more rascal lesser in the world. So when you become what you become, your old world will not be able to relate to you, because they want you to be one among them. They will not be able to relate to you. They will try to pull you down. But you need to understand that is not how it is. the next realization that the dragonfly had, now that I've become a dragonfly, I still owe whatever I am to all those people who helped me become what I become. How can I leave them? What can I do for them? I really feel for them, but I cannot go back to them because they don't relate with me. And I can't, even if I want to, I cannot go back because I've changed. The friends of Mahatma Gandhi can no more, the friends of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi can no more relate to Mahatma Gandhi because he's so different personality. They will not be able to relate to you. So what can I do for all those people who created me? What can I do for them? So the dragonfly had one last realization. He said, now that I've become a dragonfly, let me keep flying on top of the water and keep flying. The insects from the bottom will look up and look at the beautiful dragonfly flying, and they will get inspired to become a dragonfly. So let me become an inspiration for the rest of them to start living a life that I'm living. So that is one beautiful factor of what happens when you become what you can become. When you transform, when you change, when you're able to go through that uncomfortable transition and become what you can become, you become an inspiration for the rest of them. I remember in my school, we had Vishwanathan Anand, who was my super senior, the grand chess master. After becoming the grand chess master, he came back to our school and he was giving a talk in the auditorium. And I was one of the students out there. I realized the next day, after we saw Anand, who was one of the students of the school, he went on to become a chess grandmaster. A lot of other students took up to playing chess. When you become what you become, you'll inspire a lot of your friends, a lot of your colleagues to become what you are. You become an inspiration for everybody else. And that's the beauty of transformation. Let me, probably put this whole thing in perspective by speaking a little bit about my life and what I've been through in life so far. You're seeing me, Vijay Kapoor. Yes, I'm the founder and managing director of Derby. It's a responsible menswear. So, but today, whatever I'm speaking is not the type of person I was when I was young. I belong to a middle-class family. My father was a sports journalist working with Indian Express Bangalore, and he had a salary of 1,500. And we had 5 siblings, 5 children totally, 3 sisters, brother, and me. So it was a pretty large family to grow and, to feed in 1,500 rupees. So very difficult. So most of my schooling and education was done in Christian missionary school and colleges. So most of my school fee and college fee was subsidized by the church. I am 5 feet 5 inches. I'm short. So I used to be among the shortest kids in the class. And those days, when you had to enter the classroom, they used to let the kids get in by the height order. So I'll be among the first 3-4 kids to get into the classroom. And as I get in the classroom, I'll always try to go and occupy the back benches, because back bench is a very safe place to be in. You can just get lost in the crowd. No one bothers you. There were multiple reasons why I wanted to be a backbencher, because I was not good in studies. I could never understand what the teachers are teaching. I could never understand subjects like chemistry, maths. Everything would look like Greek and Latin to me. And among a student of 60, my rank would be 35. And after that, all the students would have failed. And the school had this I think, a cruel system of putting up the mark sheets of all the kids onto the notice board that was there in the classroom. So everybody knew what your rank was and what are your score marks. So it used to be an open system. As soon as the teacher came into the class, the teacher used to look at one short boy sitting in the back, and they'll call Vijay, come sit in the front bench. Because if I sit in the back bench, I will not be able to see the blackboard. So it used to be a very uncomfortable situation for me sitting in the front bench, because the kids sitting in the front bench are all bookworms. They were sitting there for a reason, because they enjoyed studying and they were really into the thick of studying. And I was not very comfortable sitting there. I remember those days when all of them will be discussing among themselves, and just to make me include in the conversation, they'll occasionally ask me, what do you want to do, Vijay, in life? And I'll ask them, what do you want to do? And each one will tell them, no, I want to become a doctor. I want to be an engineer. And then when my turn came, I used to feel very embarrassed, because I knew with my marks, I was not capable of becoming a doctor or an engineer. At least had they not put up those mark sheets in the notice board, I'd have lied. But even that option was taken away from me. So I used to tell all of them that I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I'm going to become a businessman. Me and business and entrepreneurship, there was absolutely no connection. Nobody in my family had ever been into entrepreneurship or business. My father was working class. How do they expect anything to do with business? but I didn't understand the simple fundamental truth of life. What you think is what you become. The type of thoughts you hold in your mind is the type of life that you will live. What you sow is what you reap. What is it that you're sowing? If you sow a mango seed, only mango will come up. Grapes will not come up. If you sow orange seeds, only orange will come up. No, watermelon will not come up. What is it that you're sowing? The quality of the seeds depends upon the quality of the harvest. The quality of the harvest depends upon the quality of the seeds. What are the quality of your thoughts? I'm asking. The mind of the man is the man. Change the mind. Change the man. Develop a powerful mind. Develop a powerful man. What are the type of thoughts you have about yourself? What are your self-beliefs about yourself? What do you think day and night what you want to become? The problem that we have is we think we will do this thing today. We think we'll do that thing today. We are always jumping from one thought to another. A thought held long enough makes it powerful. You need to hold on to your thoughts. You need to believe in few things and hold on to the belief that yes, you will achieve it in life. And once you're able to hold on to it, you can go and achieve whatever you want to achieve in life. So what are your thoughts? I, as a kid, kept saying, I want to be a businessman. I want to be a businessman. I want to be a businessman. Not knowing that eventually what you think is what you'll become. And eventually at the age of 23, I took up to entrepreneurship. It does not matter whether your teachers believe in you or not. It does not matter whether your parents believe in you or not. It does not matter whether your siblings, your friends believe in you or not. What really matters is YGB. You got to believe in yourself. The bumblebee is an insect with disproportionately small wings as compared to its large body. The scientists from aerodynamics have declared the bumblebee cannot fly for this very reason. Why? Because it has very small wings as compared to the large body. Luckily, the bumblebee does not understand science, neither it understands scientists. So it keeps on flying. Tell me, if you are able to believe in yourself, and if you're not going to listen to what the world tells you, you cannot do it, you are dumb. I believe throughout my schooling that I am done. I am good for nothing. I cannot achieve anything in life because I was always tested on subjects that I was not good in. But when I got tested in something I was good in, when I went into sales, when I took up a job at the age of 21, I realized I had something. All my life, I believed I was short. People would, call me with names, Shorty, Chotu, all sorts of names they will call me. They abused me a lot. But when I went out there and I realized, yes, I may not be good in these subjects, but I had talent. I was amazing in communication. Month after month, when I became a salesman, I was able to achieve 150, 200% targets. And I was a super salesman. I grew up the ranks from an assistant salesman to up the ranks in a very, very short time. That's when I realized, yes, I may not be good in studies, but even I have talent. I was very good in communication. I was a super salesman. If you go and ask Sachin Tendulkar to play golf, he will never be able to become what he can become. If you go and ask Tiger Woods to go and play cricket, he will not be able to perform. You need to find out where your passion is. What are you good at? And go and get into the profession. Then you will see success. I'm going to ask you a few questions. You can probably type out the answers in the chat box or probably just hold it in your mind. What is common between George Washington, Winston Churchill, Walt Disney, Albert Einstein, and Albert Einstein? What is common among all these people? I've told you people from different walks of life. What do you think is common among all these people? Just think about the answer or probably put it in the chat box. I know there may be a lot of answers. I'm seeing visionary people, failures, a lot of answers. They knew the value of time, fabulous. But one very, very less known reason that, made all these people what they were, is they were not the brightest of students in the schools and colleges. In fact, they were outstanding students. What I mean by outstanding students, they found themselves most of the time standing outside the classroom than inside the classroom because teachers felt it's a waste of time and energy keeping them in the class. They were absolutely useless when it came in their academic life, but yet they all became legends. How? They believed in the YGB mantra. They believed in themselves. Another question. What's common between Charles Dickens, Alexander the Great, Napoleon Bonaparte, Julius Caesar, and W.H. Wells? What is common among all these 5 people? You can probably type it out, or you can keep this answer in your mind. They had courage, they never gave up. Fabulous. A lot of answers is coming through. But one very little known fact about all these people is they suffered from epilepsy. In common man's language, fits. They had this something called as fits. Yet they all became legends. How? They all believed in the YGB mantra. They believed in themselves. Stevie Wonder went on to win the Grammy in spite of being blind. Don Bradman and Sachin Tendulkar went on to become cricketing legends in spite of being shot. Abhinav Bindra won the Olympic gold for India in spite of having a poor eyesight. Michael Phelps, who created history in Olympics, was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity syndrome when he was just in his 5th grade. John Milton, one of the greatest poets that we've ever had, wrote his most famous epic, Paradise Lost, after he became blind. Beethoven, one of the greatest music composers, continued to create music even after he became deaf. Helen Keller, I know we have all heard a lot about Helen Keller. She was blind, deaf, and mute. Yet during her lifetime, she wrote nearing a dozen books, traveled around the world, and met 12 USA presidents. How do you think all of them went out to achieve what they did? Dhirubhai Ambani started with a capital of 15,000 rupees and Narayana Murthy with a capital of 10,000 rupees. Yet today, your Reliance as well as Infosys, a world-renowned organization. What we can learn from the lives of all these world movers is that they believed in themselves. I'm asking you, what is the belief that you have in you? What is the belief that you have in you? How would you believe about yourself? It's never about what you have. It's always about what you can do with what you have. What you have is not important. All these people have proven it's not about how much they had. What really mattered is what they did with what they had. And that made all the difference in their life. I'm asking you, what is it that you believe in yourself? What do you want to do? And how do you want to do it? Speaking about me, when I was in salesman, I always believed from my childhood that I wanted to be a businessman. When I went into sales, I came from a very average background. I came from a middle class family. I never knew how to dress. So the first day when I went into sales, I went to an apartment complex, dressed up with very, a crushed shirt with a trouser and with a jhola. The watchman outside the complex stopped me and told me, "Brother, where are you going?" I told him, "No, I want to go inside because I want to make a sales call." So he stopped me and told, "No, you cannot go in." "No, I want to go in," I told him. He said, "Please read the board outside the gate." When I read the board outside the gate, the board read, "Dogs and salesmen not allowed." I repeat, dogs and salesmen not allowed. I felt devastated. I felt very hurt. I was not able to take it that people are relating a dog to a human being. How can you do that? What is the value? And you'll be surprised. And this is the truth that used to be there. This used to be common in all the apartment complexes and offices at those point of time. That was the respect that salespeople had. I couldn't believe it. I went back, I cried a lot. Then I decided, okay, what's the use of crying, Vijay? It doesn't make sense. With whatever little money I had, with 200 rupees, I went and bought for 75 rupees, I bought a shirt for 125 rupees. I bought a trouser. I borrowed a tie from a friend of mine. I borrowed an old Bata shoe, polished it nicely. Now wearing a tie, polished shoes, I went back to the same apartment complex next day. The same watchman was standing, but today he did not recognize me in my new avatar. I was looking very smart and dynamic. And he saluted me and let me inside. And that was my biggest and the first learning in life. People judge a book by its cover. People will always judge you by the way you look. Your ways, your methods, your dressing has to represent the industry you come from. And that was my first and biggest lesson, that you always have to be top class. And when I'm speaking about, yes, I always speak about being beautiful within. It's not about your look. But once you become Mahatma Gandhi, even if you wear langot and go, people will salute you. But till you become Mahatma Gandhi, you need to, till you achieve greatness, you need to absolutely dress top class. And when I'm saying dress top class, it's not just about your dressing, your physical, but you need to also groom yourself within. You need to develop yourself in different qualities, different abilities, especially your communication skills. You need to be a master communicator. You need to be a team player. You need to understand you cannot win alone. You need to develop how you can bring people together, how you can motivate people, and how you can lead others. But remember one very important thing of life. Self-leadership precedes external leadership. Before you want to lead anybody else, you need to learn to lead yourself. Because when you speak about a human being is a composition of only three things: how he thinks, how he feels, and what he does. What are your thoughts? Again, I'm asking, what are the type of thoughts you hold in your mind? The first thing when you get up in the morning, what do? We pick up the phone, go through WhatsApp, go through Instagram, go through Facebook, go through all the news channels, go through what all is not happening right in life. In computer parlance, let me speak, garbage in, garbage out. If the first thing in the morning you're going to read garbage, if only thing you're going to look at what all is not happening right in the world, if that is what is going into your mind first thing in the morning, how do you expect your life to turn out to be beautiful? Because you only live one day at a life. Every day in the morning, the beginning of your life, the beginning of your day is all about putting all the negativity, all that is not happening right. First thing, that's what you're doing. And you expect why your life is not going right. Why do I feel so demotivated? Why do I feel so, lethargic? It will happen. What you think is very, very important. What is thoughts? Thoughts are made up of words. What are your thoughts? Thoughts are made up of words. Your vocabulary. What is the kind of vocabulary that you have in your life? Is all your communication when someone asks you, how are you? Why do you ask? I'm not feeling so well. Life is not all that good. It's boring. If that is your vocabulary, instead of saying, how are you? Oh, I'm feeling top of the world. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling energetic. I'm feeling superb. Thoughts are made out of words. What are your vocabulary? What is it that you keep communicating to yourself day in and day out? And what you communicate to day in and day out is what your life is going to be. A human being is what he thinks first. Second, how you feel. Let's speak about feelings. What are feelings? Feelings are love, happiness, peace, energetic, enthusiasm, excitement, sadness, pity, dryness, desperation, angry, upset, depression. These are all feelings. They're all feelings. Feelings set into motion is called as emotion. Feelings set into motion is called emotion. You have the power of extracting the best out of you by setting the right feelings into emotions. For example, when you add a thought to your feeling, you create an emotion. Love is a feeling. Love for my son is an emotion. Happiness is a feeling. Happiness about life is an emotion. Anger is a feeling. Angry about what is about the lockdown is an emotion. So what is the type of feelings you want to set into motion in your life? You can choose. You don't need to be a part of these circumstances. Circumstances should not create a man. A man should create his own circumstances of success. And how do you create circumstances of success? By setting the right feelings into motion, by putting a word to it, putting love, put a word to it. Then you make it emotion. Feeling set into motion is emotion. So you can create the right feelings within you. A man is how you think, how you feel. If you're thinking right and you're feeling right, how your actions are going to be. Your doing is always going to be right. Only good will come out of you thinking right and you're feeling right. I went on. I was a super salesman. Month after month, I realized that I was really good in sales. For the first time, I realized, yes, all my life, I was not good in my studies. I always thought I was a failure. But when life tested me in the right things in which I was good at, I became a super success. And month after month, I was able to achieve 150, 160 when my colleagues were struggling to even achieve 40, 50% of the turnover of their sales target, what they had. There were multiple reasons. When they used to come to work at 9:30, then go have a smoke, have a chai, get in the market at 11 o'clock. By 6 o'clock, they used to wind up. I used to get in the market by 8:30 in the morning and leave the market at 9 in the night. Your effort will determine the quality of your results. There's nothing called as shortcuts. Today, I'm seeing a lot of individuals, a lot of youngsters. We want easy success. We want something very easy. There's nothing called as easy success. There is no easy way to the top. And those who made it to the top did not make it easy. You're only seeing them when they made it to the top thinking they made it very easily. The person who wins the Olympic gold, we are only seeing him perform for those few seconds when he's performing the act. But behind that performance is probably 15, 20 years of consistent hard work day out and day out. And the pinnacle of that is a final moment during the Olympic when he wins the gold. There's no easy way to the top. And those who made it to the top didn't make it easy. So do not think there's anything called as easy life. I know a lot of them come and say, I want to be very peaceful. I want to be very happy. And I want to have a very peaceful life. Yes, there is one place. You can be very peaceful. You can be without, any challenges. There is a place like that. You know where that place is? It's called as graveyard. It's only when you're 6 feet underground will you be peaceful. You'll not have any challenges in life. But till you are alive, you will face challenges. And challenges is what makes you. Challenges is what gives you maturity. Challenges is what drives you forward. And that's what is most important. So during one of my sales calls, I met a gentleman by name of Rajesh Malik. He told me, Vijay, you're such a good salesman. Why don't you come and join me in business? I have a 200 square feet store. I want to open a Punjabi dhaba. Come and join me. Let's do the dhaba business together. I got very excited when he said business because all my growing years, what I told myself, I'm going to be a businessman. So when someone was offering me a business opportunity, I got very excited. He told me I've already invested 2 lakh rupees in terms of giving the deposit and pagdi. Vijay, you bring 2 lakh rupees, we'll do the interiors and we'll start off the place. So I went and told my dad, I met a person by name of Rajesh Malik. He's invested 2 lakhs. I want 2 lakhs out of which I already have 1 lakh rupees as saving because I was a super salesman. My salary was only 1,750 rupees, but my incentive, because I was able to achieve 150, 160% target month after month, I used to get handsome incentive of 10, 15,000 rupees every month. So I'd say to my incentive, I had 1 lakh rupees of money saved up. So I told my dad, I have 1 lakh. Can you give me 1 lakh rupee? So what do you think my dad told me? He told me, no, we are all middle class family. We cannot do business. We don't know how to do business. For a change, you're doing very well for yourself. We thought you didn't have a future. You're earning very well. Don't leave all this. Go search for something new. Don't do this. This is not good for middle class people. But by the time I was a hardened salesman, if anybody told me no, till they said yes, I would go back. So I went, going back to my father, repeatedly saying that I want to be a businessman. I want to be a businessman. Finally, after 1 month, he said, Vijay, I've broken my Provident Fund account. Here's 1 lakh rupee. But just be careful with the money. So with my dad's 1 lakh rupee and my 1 lakh rupee saving, I went and gave it to my partner saying, let's start the business. And for a Punjabi dhaba, the most important is kitchen. And for the kitchen, most important is chimney. So to remove the chimney, I was not able to remove chimney. So I went to the secretary of the building, Mr. Bihari Lal, and asked him, can you give me permission to remove a chimney? Bihari Lal told me, yes, I'll give you permission, Vijay, but you need to take the chimney to the 14th floor of the building because there are 14th floor. Environment concern. When I came back, I did the calculation. The cost of creating the chimney was costing me 2 lakh rupees. I had already spent the money on part in interiors. So I didn't have money. I went and told my partner, this is what has happened. What do we do? So partner said, don't worry, wait for a week's time. We'll decide after a week. After a week, he called me and told me, my partner told me, Vijay, whatever money was there in the bank, I've withdrawn all the money. Here is the key of the shop. I'm getting out of the partnership. Do whatever you want with the shop. So before I started my business has failed. I could not go back and tell my father because my father had told me, didn't I tell you? When I resigned my job as a salesman and got into this, I danced away from the job saying that I'm going to become an entrepreneur, very excited. I didn't know what to do and I was crying. I was feeling very bad about myself. That night, when I remember the first day at work, that security man telling me, dogs and salesmen are not allowed. That was the turning point in my life. That's when I thought, how many Vijays will be there in the world who want to dress well, who want to really look smart and dynamic, but do not have an opportunity to dress because they don't know where to dress and how to dress at a very reasonable price. Can I find a solution to this problem? That's when I started Derby with a 2-machine tailoring unit with a 200 square feet shop in Chennai, India in 1994. So I went with whatever 10,000 rupees money I had. I bought 2 second-hand black machines. I got a tailor master with the name of Nandagopal Master. And December 11th, I started with a 2 tailoring machine saying, let me find a solution to this problem in the world. And that's how my entrepreneurship journey started. And the rest is history. So it's already about 4 o'clock. So I promised that I will take question and answer. So I'd like to spend the next 15-20 minutes taking question and answer. So you can ask me any questions that you have, any relationship problem, anything that I've spoken on the talk, anything that you want to know. I'll be more than happy to answer. So Jairam, do you want to facilitate?
Hello, sir. It's a wonderful talk. We are looking at the QA window. There are a lot of questions. I don't know to start with the first one or
Hello.
start with the last one.
Hello.
Jay, sir, over to you.
Hello.
Yes, please, Remy. We can hear you.
Yeah. So we'll begin with the Q&A. Hello.
Yeah, please.
How to convince investors to invest in our startups?
How to convince investors to invest in my startup? I always have. I give a lot of talks to entrepreneurs. I give a lot of talks to youngsters, especially, doing their management. And they all come back and tell me, I've got great business idea. It's a $1 billion idea. I want to tell you one thing. Idea is 1%. 99% is implementation of ideas. Ideas never fail. Implementation, the business models fail. Because a lot of people ask me, I want money. If only I have money, I know I can do a $1 billion business. It's never money. If you have a good product or service, you will find money coming to you. First, test your product or service that you want. Stop running after investments. I think the world going forward is not going to be the world that we saw till yesterday. There is something called as design thinking process. Use the design thinking process to get your unit economic, understand product market fit, understand whether your product and service is what the customers want, and this is what they want to do. And this is what is going to make money for you. If you have a good product and service, and if you have a good business model that works, and if the unit economic works, automatically you will have investors wanting to invest in you. You don't have to go and convince any investor. The biggest challenge is 99% of the time, our business models do not work. That is when we realize I had a great idea. My business model didn't work, but somebody behind me came up with the same idea, but with a business model that worked, and he made $1 billion in the whole process. So my whole thing is, first, if you got a great idea, do a small course on design thinking. Use the design thinking concepts into your business. Develop a business model that is robust enough, understanding what the customer needs. Do not go in thinking this is what you want to offer to the market. I always told you, entrepreneurs, one who finds what is a problem, what is the consumer's challenges, and you find a solution to it. So do the whole process, find out how large the market is, how much is a serviceable market, how can you make this whole thing work? Can you do it in a micro? Can you do it at a small level and make a profitable business model out of it? And then you'll find investors wanting to invest. You don't need to convince anyone else. Next question, Jara.
Yeah. In the balloon example, you said it is the inside quality which makes you grow. And in your personal example, you are saying you need to look good to impress society. So how does people judge from outside?
I think that's very well asked. I think I gave an answer during my talk itself. Before you become great, you need to develop certain qualities, certain looks. Your looks, your methods, your methodology has to represent the industry you come from. Once you become great, people will respect you no matter how you look or how you wear or whatever you do. But till you become great, you need to develop certain great qualities, and you need to also represent the industry you come from. As much as I say what really counts is inside, I also understand the world doesn't look at inside. The world first looks at outside. World always judges you by your look. So I'm also, for example, you're looking at me right now. As soon as you looked at me in the Zoom camera for the first time, you might be wondering, why is this guy having such long hair? Why is he having curly hair? Is this natural? Does he go to a parlor and do it? You would have made judgment calls for me for the first 5 minutes, wondering, why do I look? How do I look? Why is he wearing a jacket and sitting in a Zoom call? You'd have made all judgment calls. Didn't you do it? Be honest with yourself. But after the first 5 minutes, what really mattered to you is not how I was looking, but what I was delivering. You were able to connect to the message. That is how the world is. The world will always judge, because when you look at the mirror, I told you the mirror example, you are judging yourself. You're all the time judging yourself. That is the reason you're also judging the world. Once you start loving yourself, once you're able to look deep within you and understand who you are, then when the self-judgment stops, you will start judging the outside. And that's how the whole world is. Let me tell you a small story. I know you love stories. And this is a story about yourself. A long time back, about 700 million participants ran a race, out of which only one participant emerged a winner. Those 700 million participants I'm speaking are the 700 million sperm traveling from the father to the egg in the mother. Only that sperm, which was the fastest and the healthiest, fused with the egg in the mother for you to be born. You are that winning sperm. You are a winner by birth. There is a DNA craving deep within you, wanting you to win. You are born to win. Every seed has in it the potential to become a forest. Every stone has in it the potential to become a statue, and every human being has a potential to become a legend. So no matter what I tell you, it's all about your inner belief. You need to believe in your potential and live out to it. And judgment, you can only stop judging the world once you stop judging yourself. So start loving yourself for what you are. Look in the mirror once in a while and just hold on to your cheek and say, oh, lovely, lovely. Kiss yourself. Accept yourself the way you are. But always remind yourself, with every passing day, you need to become a better version of you. Your judgment comes because you're continuously judging yourself to a neighbor. You're judging yourself to a friend. You're judging yourself against somebody else. You're not having a race against anybody but yourself. What really matters is, are you beautifying your inner self on a daily basis? It's not so important how beautiful or clean the bottle is from outside. What's so important? How beautiful the bottle is from within, how clean it is. So cleanse yourself, feel beautiful from within, and the beauty from within over a period of time will bring that loves in your eyes, wherein you're able to look at every human being as one. I remember that time when I just started my business, 2-machine tailoring unit, only with a tailoring master. So I used to be the security guard. I used to open up the door. I used to, mop and sweep the floor. I used to take the measurements. I learned how to cut. I learned how to tailor. And I remember my friends from my work coming one of those morning at 10 o'clock when I just opened the shop and I was sweeping and mopping the floor. And they were standing outside smoking cigarette and laughing at me. They walked into the store and told me, hey, Vijay, aren't you ashamed of yourself? You are a super salesman, a celebrated salesman, earning handsome salary and incentive month after month. Aren't you ashamed doing work out here? So my only answer to every one of them was, what is there to feel ashamed about doing your own job? You should have dignity and work. There is nothing called as a small job or a big job. Feel proud about everything that you do. And that was one of my life lessons. Today, when I look at anyone, I realize probably I'm rich today, because holding money is like holding sand in your hand. The tighter you hold on to it, the more easily it slips out through your fingers. Today you have the money. Tomorrow they may have the money. The positions will change. Learn to respect human beings purely because they're human beings. Learn to respect nature. Learn to respect your environment. Learn to appreciate everything around you. Then you will understand the true essence of life. And then you can go beyond these differences. The next question.
Yeah, it's from a faculty, Professor Naresh Dev. Is a fantastic motivation we have. Is entrepreneurship in this era is creating factors of production, or is there a transformation in definition?
I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, in fact, maybe we can ask the professor to come back again with the question. There is another question to you. What were the challenges and motivation in your journey?
Whatever you're seeing now is probably the end result. I'm 48 years. I have failed a lot in life. One thing I always remembered, the harder you press the spring and when you release it, the faster it bounces back. I've never given up during failures. I faced a lot of failures right from the time I told you, right from starting the business when my partner withdrew the money and went off. How do you think, how many tailors you have known has gone on to become a brand? I don't think so many of them. The reason I've never had a give up attitude, I always believed life is like playing a boxing match. You're always boxing with one another. But you remember in a boxing match, you're never declared a loser. You're declared a loser only when you refuse to get up one more time. That's when you're declared a loser. So every time life boxes you, punches you and puts you down, have the resilience to get up one more time, then you're fallen. That's all you need to remember. It's okay. It's okay to feel down. It's okay to feel, hey, I have failed. It's okay. But what is not okay is after the realization, giving up, get up. And that is the only difference between winners and losers. Losers quit. Winners never quit. You have to get up one more time. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. How to handle adversity and doubt?
Adversity and doubt. Let's understand what's adversity. When you speak about adversity, you're speaking about fear. What is fear or what is doubt? F-E-A-R. False assumptions assumed real. F-E-A-R. False assumption assumed real. Before, what is adversity or what is doubt? Before some things happen itself, you start doubting what's going to happen. How am I going to face it? And because you're so afraid about this whole situation, you start shrinking. Avoid fear, it grows. Face fear, it goes. So, for example, now, I've seen a lot of people, when you have to meet certain commitments, especially when I'm coming from a business environment, I've seen a lot of, colleagues, a lot of other things, when they have committed something that they will deliver probably on Monday. And right from, Monday onwards, the client is calling up saying that, hey, you need to deliver this, but you've not delivered this. What they start doing, they start avoiding the call. They start, avoiding interacting with the person. We think when we avoid, we can escape, but you cannot escape. Because what's going to happen, he's going to keep on calling you till you do it. What you need to do is pick up the phone and say, yes, I cannot deliver it. Yes, I committed to you, I will deliver on Monday. I'm not able to do it because of this and this reason. If you're able to be honest, if you're able to be transparent, and if you're able to explain the situation, if you're giving an excuse every time, then it's a habit. But if it's a one-off occurrence, if you're able to face the situation and tell them, yes, I committed on Monday, I'm sorry, I'm not able to commit because I had to be a production delay because one of the machinery broke down. Instead of Monday, I will deliver it to you on Thursday. You need to. He's going to yell at you. He's going to, abuse you. He's going to do. That's his right. But at the end of it, you told him Thursday. And instead of Thursday, deliver it to him on Wednesday. You still won a client. You still won the trust. And you still have someone who will come back to you later because he thinks you're able to keep up your word. But instead, you keep avoiding. You're not picking up the call on Monday. You avoid it on Tuesday. On the other side, the other person is feeling very frustrated, feeling angry. And even if you deliver it finally on Wednesday, he will think you are not worthy of trust. You are not worth it. So you cannot avoid things. So whenever you face any adversity or any challenge in life, I would say don't avoid it, face it. Because you realize that most of the time, what we think it's the end of the world is never end of the world. When you go and face it, you'll realize it's okay. Yes, the other person is, whatever situation is, it is there, but accept it, face it, and you'll come up on top. Never avoid, never run away from any situation. Because running away is not the solution. Only facing it is the solution. It's not easy what I'm telling you. but that's the only way to handle it. Yes, Jano.
Okay. Can you suggest few skills for an effective career into marketing communications?
Skills to be developed. I think
Yeah.
one skill that is very, very important for marketing or for any aspect of life, it is basically you have to believe in excellence. You need to have a passion for excellence in anything that you do. A passion for excellence is born that you will not do anything that is beyond being the best of what you can deliver. Anything that you need to do has to be with excellence. And second and most important quality is you need to develop yourself into an effective communicator. What do I mean by effective communicators? When the message that you deliver should not just be a communication that goes from mind to mind. That's what most people communicate. They're able to communicate that concept. They're able to communicate the idea. But when you communicate the concept and idea without the feelings behind that, you're only transferring an idea, you're not transferring the feeling, then the sale is never made. True communication is one when you're able to empower people through emotions. You should be able to emotionally connect with the other person and not only transfer the ideas, but also the emotions that you feel with it. When you're able to transfer the emotions, that is when you're able to empower them. And that's how they're able to buy into the idea. So if you want to be in marketing, you need to understand how to connect, get that emotional connect. Yes, you may be very good in getting the idea and concept, but developing yourself in communication, where it's not only mind to mind, but also heart to heart, will definitely help you. And very important also in marketing, remember, it's teamwork. A lot of people think just because I'm a marketing genius, I'm very good at it, I can go out and win alone. No, it's not possible. You need to ensure that you develop team and you become a team player so that you're able to get the ideas from other people, use that idea to develop it, test it, and then go out and do it. And most important, what is going to be the methodology? What's the type of methods you will follow to go and achieve what you want to achieve? So most, if you ask me, what's important is passion for excellence. Process excellence is very important, and very important, develop yourself in your communication skill. Be a master communicator. You should be able to kindle emotions in other people. Only then you'll be able to sell your ideas and concepts. You'll be able to empower others to feel the same way as you feel for it.
Yeah, humans are social animals. How to stay away from negative people around us since we cannot stay alone?
None of us are islands. We are not an island. We live with other people. We need other people. We live in a society. We live with people around us. But what we can do is we can develop certain qualities within us that will help us forever stay positive, stay motivated, stay focused to what we want to be and what we believe in life. Because we are all the time, like you rightly said, we are social animals. We are all the time rubbing our shoulders with others in life. And when you rub your shoulders with others in life, your thoughts rub, your ideas rub, thereby contaminating the person and the human being that you're within. So I developed certain processes for myself. I'll tell you how I live my life, how my day goes. Every morning when I get up, I keep a wake-up call. I'm sure all of you also keep a wake-up call when you get up in the morning. What do we do when the wake-up call happens? When the wake-up call happens, you immediately put it on snooze. You go and sleep for a few more minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Again, it rings. Probably you get up this time, or probably get up after 15, 20 minutes. Probably you kept an alarm for 6:30, a wake-up call for 6:30. You finally get up at 6:45 or 7. Now, do we understand what is happening? We think it's a very small incident that happens in the beginning of the day. That if you don't get up the time when you said you'll get up. Who said you wanted to get up at 6:30 in the morning? Who kept that wake-up call? You kept that wake-up call last night saying, I will get up at 6:30 in the morning. And first thing in the morning, when the wake-up call happens, what you do? You're not able to get up at the time that you said you will get up. First thing in the morning, you get up by breaking a promise that you had to yourself. What did I tell you? The mind of the man is the man. Develop a powerful mind, develop a powerful man. The power of the man is the power of his mind. The power of his mind is the power of his subconscious mind. The power of his subconscious mind is the power of his subconscious beliefs. And subconscious beliefs are built by making and honoring commitments. The power of the man is in the power of his mind. The power of his mind is the power of his subconscious mind. The power of his subconscious mind is the power of subconscious beliefs. And subconscious beliefs are built by making and honoring commitments. The first commitment that you made to yourself, not anybody else. Nobody told you wake up at 6:30 in the morning, but you made that commitment to yourself and you kept that wake up call. But when the wake up call happened, the first commitment you started with the day is breaking that commitment. We think something very small happened, but nobody out there is doubting you. But your own subconscious mind is doubting you and asking you this question. Hey Vijay, when you can't even wake up at the time you said you'll wake up. What are you going to go and achieve anything great in life? You can't even keep a simple promise that you said. One wake up, no. You only said you would have kept at 7 o'clock, got up at 7 o'clock. Why did you keep at 6:30 and get up at 6:30? And from the time 6:30 to 6:45, that time that you have where you're tossing and turning, there is one Mahabharata that is happening within your mind. There is a complete fight and there is a total drain of energy happening. First thing in the morning, your energy is getting drained because there's a war happening within your mind. You've broken the first promise of the day and you're draining your energy out first thing. Instead of energizing yourself, you're draining your energy. So what I do when the wake up call happens, I jump out of bed. As soon as I jump out of bed, I don't go and touch the phone for the next 2-3 hours. First thing is I get down on my knees and the prayer I do. Thank you, my Lord, for giving me another day at life. Of the millions of people who went to sleep last night, not everybody got up this morning. Thank you, my Lord, for giving me another day of life. I promise you in the way I live my life today, I'll live it out of giving my 100% to it and make my today much better than all my yesterdays. This is my commitment. I don't even know whether there's a God or not because I have not seen God. But one thing I know, the distance between my mouth and my ears are the closest. What are your thoughts? Your thoughts are made out of words. And I keep subconsciously programming myself, thanking myself for the day. First thing is of gratitude. I feel grateful for the roof over my head, for the beautiful wife that I have, for my son in my next bedroom, for the mother who's sleeping below, for the work that I have, for the people who love me, for all those things that I'm going to do in the day. I feel grateful. I start my day with gratitude, heart filled with love, heart filled with gratitude for giving me another day, because I don't know how many hundreds of people who went to sleep last night didn't get up in the morning. They died in their sleep. Today is a gift that He's given me. Only He can give me. Nobody else can give. And I thank myself that morning and I motivate myself saying that this is what I want. I want to feel energetic. I get up, I roll my mat, I do my yoga for half an hour. As soon as I complete my yoga, I sit in silence. Then after that, I take a bath. Then I dance for 15-20 minutes. I dance. I'm 49 and I dance like a madman. Have you seen those Sufi saints? I dance like a madman and I dance and jump and dance. I know it sounds very, very funny for a matured person doing it. But believe me, it works because I tell myself I'm happy, I'm grateful, I'm excited for the day. So what if it's a lockdown outside? I will come back. I am going to get ready for when things get better. I am going to live my day because you only live one day at a time. And I ask myself this question, how do you want to live your day today, Vijay? Do you want to live it out of happiness? Do you want to live it out of passion? Do you want to live it out of enthusiasm? Do you want to live it out of giving your 100% to it? Or do you want to live being angry? Do you want to live being upset? Do you want to be a bottle of acid that is spilling all over the place at every word you use, abusing people, getting angry at people? How do you want to live your life? And every morning I tell myself, I want to live happily, and I dance and I motivate myself saying that I'm going to live an amazing life. I'm going to live an amazing day. And I go on to have an amazing day. Why do you take a bath every morning? You took a bath yesterday, no? You brushed your teeth yesterday. Why do you brush your teeth every morning? Because you know the whole day you've got contaminated. You have sweated, you have bacteria over your body, you have eaten food, you have bacteria in your mouth. You need to brush it. You need to take a bath to remove it. Similarly, you need to self-motivate yourself. External motivation will work for some time. It's very nice to call a guest speaker like me and get you motivated. But this motivation will last you for 2-3 days. Beyond that, the only thing that will work for you is self-motivation. Till you don't feel self-motivated that I'm going to do great things in life. I'm going to achieve it. No matter what circumstances, I'm not going to give up. You're not going to achieve anything great in life. Circumstances should not create a man. A man should create his own circumstances for greatness. Because sometimes circumstances may be in your favor. Most of the time, circumstances may not be in favor. When circumstances are not in your favor, you start playing the victim. You start telling me, I cannot do this. Why? Because you're scared. Because you don't want to face the realities of life. But if you have the self-motivation, you will say, let's see. Dekhte hain kya hota hai. Let's see what happens. You'll go head on into it. You will bull it and you will fight for it. And believe me, when he tests you, he's not testing you to make you something that is not there. He's testing you to make you what you can become. I know you love stories. Let me end today with one story. It seems the flooring marble of the temple told the idol marble in the temple, this is not fair. Look what is happening. We both came in the same truck from Makrana, Rajasthan, but look what is happening. People are standing on top of me and they're worshipping you. This is not right. So the idol marble told the temple marble, flooring marble, yes, what you're saying is right. We both came from Makrana in the same truck. But when the sculptor was wanting to chisel you, when he started chiseling you and for 5-10 minutes, you started crying, oh, I'm not able to take the pain. I'm not able to take the pain. So he told you, okay. And he laid you as a flooring marble. I was willing to take millions of blows on top of me for me to become an idol worthy of worship. When life is testing you, when life is challenging you, when you're having problems, problems do not come to destroy you. Problems come to create you. They are opportunities for your growth. Seize them. Look at problems as challenges that will create you, and then look at how you live your life with enthusiasm, with courage, and go out and achieve great things in life. So my dear friends, my dear students, what you need to remember is the way to greatness is YGB. You got to believe in yourself. You need to believe that you need to put yourself through uncomfortable transition for you to transform and become what you can become. If you want to change, only stones don't change. Human beings will change. And what is transformation? Transformation. Transcending your old formation of habits to your new formation of habits. Transformation. Transcending old habits to new habits. You need to develop certain habits that are going to will make you great. And habits need discipline. Time management is not clock management. It is habit forming. It is discipline. Understanding that I will give my time and my energy to what is most important to me in life. And you only live your day one day at a time. So one day, can you not give you 100%? And what you tell yourself in the morning, like I ask myself every morning, how are you going to live your life today? Are you going to live it out of happiness or anger and hatred? And tell myself happiness. And end of the day, I sit in quietness. I sit in silence and ask myself, how did you live your day today? And I go through my entire day, self-analyzing whether I'm living my life in worth of my goals and aspirations. Is there a split, or am I living aligned to what I want to live in my life? And I'm able to self-introspect and self-correct myself every day, thereby improving myself day by day. Prem, Sat, Chit, Anand. Prem, the all-composing love. Look at world as your natural extension. Then your love for the entire world will go up. Prem, Sat, truth. The truth of life is a law of impermanence. What starts will end. Did this session start? It will end. Did this day start? It will end. But there is also a law of permanence. He never began. He will never end. But we are all governed by the law of impermanence. In this fleeting life between life and death, there was no control where you will be born, to which family you will be born, which geographic condition you will be born. We are all born with something called as death certificate. In this life between life and death, can you live such a beautiful life where you not only lift yourself by yourself and also lift others in the process? Can you live a value-based life? Prem, Sat, Chit, consciousness, awareness. Can you bring a sense of awareness into your life? Can you live a life much more than me, mine, myself? Can you align your personal value system to the existential law of life and bring a grace into your life? And Anand, limitless bliss. We all keep searching for happiness, but happiness is not a destination, but you bring happiness to whatever you do. You bring in happiness. You don't go and reach happiness. By doing something, you don't become happy, but you bring happiness to whatever you do. So I want to end today's session saying, loving you so much. Wishing you an amazing life. God bless you and wishing you greatness. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Vijay, there have been many questions, but I think it's all, they would have got the answer from your conversation. There is one question from a student, I believe. Derby focuses only on gents. Why not unisex?
We will get there. We will definitely get there.
Okay.
We don't discriminate. We started with menswear. We want to continue with menswear, but eventually get into women's as well as kids.
Okay. So we can close the session.
Jairam, I have a small request. I always believe feedback is a gift. So I want to receive a lot of gifts. Please send me the feedback that you had from today's session. I'd love to hear what people have to say.
Yes.
This is the biggest gift that you can give me.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I think the best feedback, we can get it from the Dean. And then I'll give the vote of thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Over to Dr. Sandhir Sharma.
I'll say awesome. Awesome is the word. It's such a wonderful and inspiring session, Vijay sir. We are extremely thankful to you. I was reading a couple of questions which you answered probably while answering some other questions. For example, I had to ask one question from you, asked by a attendee, that why such motivation sessions, these sessions stay in the mind for a temporary time and after 2-3 days it goes away. And you very nicely pointed it out that no, it's you who have to manage it. Second best thing is when you said that, when you quoted that example that in the morning there is a clock and there's a wake-up call and everybody tries to avoid that wake-up call after setting it by themselves. So I find it so real happening with all of us everyday basis. I think there is a lot to correct from our own end. So once we correct ourselves, I think the sky is the limit for anything that we do. The last statement you said that it's a death certificate. So I strongly feel that death is also a journey. I mean, there's a life after death as well. So it's a life actually. It's a life before death. It's a life after death, and hence the life goes on and on. Sir, it's a wonderful session. We have a formal system of taking some feedback also. We will share it with Jairam sir and Shri sir. And really, sir, it was a wonderful session. And though formally Jairam sir and Business Standard team will thank you, but with a folded hand, sir, thank you very, very much on behalf of Chitkara University. All attendees, sir, it was a wonderful session. We are feeling so motivated and inspired. And I think we are positively looking forward to, and you proved it with your talk today, sir. It's lockdown. It's not a knockdown. So, so over to you, Jairam, sir. Thank you, sir.
In fact, already a few students have started asking, sir, when is the next session? So I think Mr. Vijay, we should disturb him again for another session. So thanks a lot, Mr. Vijay Kapoor, on behalf of Business Standard and our Business Standard Learning Platform, and especially the wonderful Dean, Dr. Sandhir Sharma, and the faculty of Chitkara University, and the future leaders, the students who would have really got motivated by your talk. We all enjoyed this session, and which was more inspiring, enlightening, and a lot of insights we got from Mr. Vijay Kapoor, as usual. And we look forward to more journey with Mr. Vijay Kapoor. So thank you, Mr. Vijay Kapoor. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, faculty. Thank you, wonderful students, for this wonderful session. So we look forward. You can look forward to more sessions from Business Standard. Thank you. Thank you.